What's up, LJ? Good to see you, man.
Good to be seen. Good to be seen. How are you?
Good. We finally see you here.
Woo! Finally.
Thank you. What's up, Blake?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Blake and I have a little bet as to how many people will show up. So we'll reveal that bet afterward.
Perfect. And so I got it queued up. So whenever we're ready,
Yeah.
give me that cue, then we'll throw it live on Facebook and we can get going.
Hope everyone's doing well.
Thank you as well.
We'll wait a couple minutes and then we're only at 2:01, so we're
Josh, how many times do you think you've taught this class over the course of your KW tenure?
I don't know. It's been a while since I've taught it, so I'm gonna say probably 4 or 5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because I haven't done it in probably a couple years. But I mean, I live and breathe by these things.
Hey, exactly. I'm reading over it. And it's
Yeah,
like, this is
exactly.
Josh Spitzen. Yeah.
Right.
Is it going to be every Thursday, you mean? It's a new class or it's just
No.
Thursday?
It's a one-time event, but it's a philosophy of life. How's that?
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you for doing it, Josh.
Of course. Like we'll go 2:05, 2 more minutes. We're still
Perfect.
We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. our little I got a ways to go before
So I'm guessing Blake's numbers were lower, huh?
Yes, you got it. I'm good. Thanks. I'm the eternal optimist. Not that Blake isn't, but
Yeah, you may win. You never know.
I'll give you my number.
Okay.
See, they're coming in, Blake.
Yeah. I know everybody's running on LA time a little bit, right? It's like 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Everybody will just jump on.
Yeah.
So, you know, fair enough. Fair enough. I feel like that's just kind of like the ebb and flow of these Zoom calls, though, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you'll probably like reach your peak like 15 minutes in.
Yeah, that's it.
Kind of
Then
how it
see
goes.
if you can hold them, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
right. So our bet's based on peak, baby.
Okay, there we go. We'll keep an eye out. Yeah.
I got a lot of ground to make up, man. So Blake, when we start in a minute, I'm going to just say a few things and then we'll put up the slides because
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little intro.
That's perfect. Let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll hit that go live on Facebook.
One more minute and we're going.
Cool.
Blake, when did you crash Tristan's office, man?
Oh, I just live in his house now. Yeah.
You just took over his space, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, I really liked his setup. I thought, you know, this is.
You
this
got
is
jealous
where
of
I
Baby
need to be.
Yoda in the back, and you're like, you know what, Tristan, we gotta talk.
Yeah. For sure.
Blake, can I ask you a quick question before we start?
Sure.
You had mentioned, I think, a couple of meetings ago about the on the KW Beverly Hills website where you can put the wants or off-market stuff for us to view within the firm. I'm looking at it right now. First of all, there is no security for anyone that wants to log in. That was my first concern. Some of the off-market, I mean, if someone just goes and looks at it, is that okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, KWBH Virtual is pretty much contained to our office. So,
Okay.
right, it's not really like a publicly passed around thing. So you do have a point, right? If they had access to that somehow, but otherwise, no.
Okay.
It is a good point, actually, Blake.
Yeah, we could have it where like maybe they request access to view.
I think, and then maybe someone has to authorize them. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
That's not a bad idea.
It's a good idea. Yep.
Yeah, I think we should actually go through with that.
Yep. Good suggestion, Michael. I appreciate it. You're right.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do my intro, Blake, and then we'll get started here. So
I'll give you the cue. Hang on.
Yeah.
Waiting. Almost there. And you're good.
Okay. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming here today. I hope it's a worthwhile experience. I think it will be. It's the first time Blake and I are doing this together. I just want to also just say how fortunate I am and we are to have Blake as my assistant team leader, our assistant team leader. He's already made a tremendous difference beyond the obvious on the tech front, is just doing so many other things from a recruiting to an agent support, just so many things. And he's just awesome and a joy to work with, and someone that inspires me every day with his willingness to just take, massive action and coming from major place of contribution with a big, big heart. So Blake, you're awesome, man. Happy to have you here and be doing this together.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Grateful to be here for sure.
Love it. So what we're going to be talking today is about the 6 personal perspectives. And it's a framework that Keller Williams created for maximizing achievement, right? And at the end of the day, in my mind, our goals, all of us, are to be the best version of ourselves. And that sounds like, sort of out there sometimes, but I truly believe, like, how do we master our own minds? Because I think 90% of achievement is mindset. And when we can basically, and this is a framework that we can decide if we choose to really strive to master, that allows us to really create a high degree of self-awareness, a high degree of commitment, such that we do become the best version of ourselves. I always say happiness is progress. And that just simply means, how do we get better every single day? And if we have a framework that allows us to really think differently and ultimately act differently, because it is all about action, then we will be happier, we'll achieve at a higher level, we'll grow, we'll progress, and we'll ultimately become the best version of ourselves. And that's an ever evolving quest and journey, right? It's a process. So I just wanted to highlight that. And this is just simply a framework for maximizing achievement. And we'll get into the details in a minute. And then other couple quick notes, if I can get my notes in front of me. I just wrote, again, choice. I always say we don't have to do anything. We choose to do what we do, including embracing this framework or not, totally up to you. I'm a big believer in commitment. You know, like I'm a big believer, like do it all in or don't do it at all. And it is about making a choice because you can't do everything. You've got to pick and choose what's best for you and have a willingness to say no to all the other things that are distractions, and not always easy, but ultimately a great way to become, again, the best version of yourself. And then at the end of the day, it's about action, right? It's about knowledge is a great starting point, but without application, it will not change your life and change your world. So with that said, Blake, anything to add before we get going?
No, let's jump into it.
Okay, let's do it. And actually, one last thing I'll say is this framework had a big influence on me joining this company, which will be 8 years on November 5th. And I definitely have leveraged this model and this framework for my own personal growth and achievement. So it definitely means a lot to me personally. So what is it that differentiates those that achieve at the highest level from those who don't seem to accomplish as much? Does anyone we want to make this, interactive. Does anyone want to take a stab at any answer to that?
When someone's trying to do it all, you won't be successful.
Love it. Absolutely.
Or when you have a plan and you execute that plan.
Love it. Spot on.
Consistency.
A goal without a plan is a wish, and wishes are great, but they typically don't necessarily come to life. So having a plan and then ultimately executing is, I think, critical. Who else?
Consistency. Discipline.
Tamara said consistency. Is that right, Tamara?
Yes.
Absolutely. Nazanin, I think you said something.
I said discipline.
Yep. One of my favorite slogans that I say to my son every single day: discipline and consistent, unstoppable together. And it's like the number one thing I want to like instill in him. So I do believe in those two words like significantly. Anyone else?
Mindset.
Action, Abu, I think said. Kelly said mindset, I believe.
Action and commitment.
Yep.
Kind of, going along with that, I think patience. I think the people that, are willing to wait, right? Not see those immediate results, but to still kind of, stick with the consistency of those actions are the ones that actually see, bigger results in the long term, for sure.
Patience while always remaining in action.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I hear patience, and I absolutely completely agree with Blake, but patience does not give you an excuse to not act.
That's right.
Sometimes I hear people say patience, and then it's like, okay, I can just sit back and wait. Patience while concurrently taking action.
Self-mastery.
Yep.
Clarity.
Grit.
Love it.
Don't give up. Don't give up.
Great stuff.
Affirmation.
Integrity.
Whoever doesn't appreciate whatever he's doing and he only sees what people are doing.
Yep. Love it.
Applied knowledge.
Love it. All right, Blake, let's move. Great stuff, guys. So a lot of the things you guys just said, right? Defining the 6 personal perspectives, right? So much of it is mindset. I know that came out. Attitude. I do think like so much, and so much of this stuff is just really simple, but not necessarily easy. What kind of attitude, what kind of perspective do you take toward life? How do you interact with other people? How do you deal with challenges? How do you deal with adversity? I always say it's easy to be nice and be great and when everything's going your way, but how do you act when things are not going your way? I always say adversity is a true test of character, right? How do people act to you when they're disappointed or they're not getting what they want? That really says a lot. That to me is a big piece of integrity. And then, again, going hand in hand with what's your approach to life. One of my core beliefs is you find what you're looking for. You can either find the good or you can find the bad in a situation or in a person. You can either find the problem or you can find the solution, right? And there's plenty of both. You choose what you choose to focus on, right? And that to me is a big approach to life. I believe there's a silver lining in every situation, even when we're disappointed. And all of this comes back to a choice, right? We can choose to do all of this or not. Blake, anything to add to that?
I don't, right? I think that like everything that like was just said, like it's such a universal truth, right? It's like you said, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. And so it's like kind of reining it all in and, you know, actually putting context to it is where like you start to make a difference, I think.
Love it. So here are the 6 personal perspectives, and we're going to dive into each individually. And once again, this is a framework for achievement, right? Commit to self-mastery, right? Which is really about self-awareness, right? And really understanding we all have our own unique strengths and weaknesses. I'm a firm believer that one of the keys to life is identifying your unique superpowers and continuing to build upon them and leveraging them, and ultimately earning the right to delegate the things that are important in your life that are your weaknesses, right? Sometimes you have to do those things, you know, until you earn the right to ultimately delegate them using systems or technology or people. Commit to the 80-20 principle. I hope everyone understands what that is. You know, there are 20% of the things that you do give you 80% of your results. It's a natural like distribution in life. You know, we talk about the real estate business. Quite frankly, you know, 20% of the agents do 80% of the business. Quite frankly, it's probably more like 90-10. It's probably, or maybe even less than that. All right. That a very small number of people or small bit of activities give you the greatest return, right? So in this context, what are the key activities that you do that give you the greatest return on your effort? And ultimately, you know, get rid of all the extraneous things that are just allowing you to be busy perhaps, but not purposeful. Which ties into the next one, moving from E to P, moving from being what we call entrepreneurial to P, being purposeful. And entrepreneurial is probably not the best, you know, word for that. It's really more like moving from allowing your natural talents to take you so far, and then taking those talents to the next level by using systems and models to allow you to go to being purposeful and elevate your natural, you know, ceiling. I think we all have a natural ceiling, and the only way to go beyond that is to become more purposeful. Make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. So always remain in curiosity and always be striving to learn, but also taking that knowledge and applying it, like we've talked about already. Remove your limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs. I always say society tends to like normalize us. It tends to make us, you know, skeptical, sometimes even cynical, right? And we don't have to, you know, give into that. We can, you know, we can push back and resist that and recognize that there are limitless possibilities. And someone always had to be the first. Someone broke the 4-minute mile. Someone always had to be the first in everything. Why not you? And as we get older, again, we become typically more risk averse. We have more responsibility. You know, there's a lot of things. And some of that is good, right? Because we become, you know, not as rash, and, you know, we consider the implications of our actions. But that can also be a negative thing, in that it deters us from taking a leap of faith and taking a calculated risk and pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones. And again, I think about little kids who don't have any of that. And there's so much to learn from them, especially I have a 6-year-old son, and I look at how he views the world, and I'm like, wow, I wish I could take some of that, right? And go after it a lot more without, you know, being so conservative in my approach. And then ultimately be accountable, right? Be willing to, you know, to endure the consequences of your actions, good or bad, and allow other people into your world that allow you to, like, you know, basically push you to the next limit and identify your blind spots. And again, as it says here, it's mine, I own it. Taking a high degree of personal responsibility and not allowing other people to be scapegoats. So, Blake, you want to read those things on the side?
Yeah, definitely. So self-mastery, right? I'm going to nail it. I'm going to master this. 80-20 principle, focusing on the big rocks, right? Those big activities that produce the most results. Purposeful about, you know, breaking through my ceiling of achievement, right? Really having like a goal and striving for that. Willing to be taught, always pursue learning. I unlimit my thinking and my success, right? Getting rid of those limiting beliefs. And then being accountable, right? Owning it, just really owning up to everything that's going on, and it's good, right? This is where we are, and taking it from there.
And the last one, I love it. We all have more than enough to accomplish anything we're committed to. No one said it was going to be easy, but if you're committed to it and you're willing to do the work and have that patience, as Blake said, and that discipline and consistency, you can achieve anything.
Love it.
All right. So I just encourage everyone to read this. I'll read it out loud and then read it to yourself. Defining the 6 personal perspectives. What is your goal? How are you doing with your goal? How do you feel about that? Right? And what will your future look like if you don't achieve your goal? And it really comes back to like tying, first of all, do you have goals? Number one. And then tying those goals to what it will do for you. How does it make you feel? Like emotion makes us act. And when we tie it to some sort of emotion, it tends to lead to a lot more accountability and action. And hopefully the goals are tied to others. They're tied to your family, your colleagues, your teammates, right? And that allows us to, it elicits emotion, it elicits, and that creates a lot more accountability and a lot more willingness to, really make sure we uphold those goals and we commit to the plan. So I encourage everyone just to think that through for a moment and just, and then if anyone wants to be bold and share what their answers are to this, that would be awesome. Anybody?
I'm going to share.
I love it.
So about 4 years ago, I had a really big tragedy happen in my family, and family of 4, my husband and I, we spend all of our time with our kids. We brought them up. We went to sports, everything. We were like the family that ate together dinner every night. We did everything together. And then the tragedy happened. My husband passed away. And at the same time, my daughter was going to college and my son was a senior. And everybody told us that maybe it might not be the best idea for us to continue with schooling and take a year off and do whatever. I was against it. I told my kids that we were going to go through grief, but yet we got to have a goal, something that keeps us focused, a goal that we can wake up every day and do what we got to do. So I'm going to say that my daughter graduated this year. My son is graduating next year with biochemistry. He had a really hard time in school. He had a hard time with everything since, he was close to his father and everything. But we never lost our plan. We never, ever, ever let everything else that was going on, my lack of finances, my lack of partner, my lack of having any family members, nothing stopped us from getting to our goal. And I really think that we all have to have a goal. Life is going to go on no matter what. You just got to figure out what it is that your priorities are and keep it doing. And I'm so glad I did it. I didn't think I was going to be able to, but I did. And I think it's important that now I feel like my husband has been going for 4 years, but it wasn't 4 years of waste. It was 4 years of having 2 kids get out of college, complete high school, get out of college. My business is still here. My KW family is still here. It was just, it's just doing it. That's all I got to share.
You're awesome. Love it. That was very, very inspiring. And I don't think most of us could even conceive of what you've, endured, but yet you've done it with grace and a lot of focus and a lot of commitment. So I'm happy to have been somewhat a part of that, Maxwell. Thank you. Love it. Stepping out of the comfort zone, being vulnerable. That's what it's all about.
I want to say the office has been a really, really good part of it. Consistency at the office, and Josh always saying consistency, and you and your son give me so much motivation every day with your, consistency and, perspective in life. It's important. It's really important. Authenticity, honesty, not to be honest, not to be ashamed, not to cry, not to let your weakness show. It's like I thrive in letting people see my weakness. I think it's important. It makes us better people, and empathy and everything is so much better. So
love it. We're in it together. Thank you.
Yes.
Environment matters.
I've heard that before. All right, Blake. All right, commit to self-mastery. All right, commit to self-mastery. Uh-oh.
Let's get that muted.
And I think we have a video, Blake, right? Or not, or is that next?
Not quite,
Okay.
yeah.
So self-mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make, the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make you the master of you, right? When you commit to achieving self-mastery, you know your goals, you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you know how to work with both your strengths and weaknesses to reach your goals, right? And again, that level of self-awareness and the conversations that we're having and the people you surround yourself with and your willingness to be held accountable and to have other people around you that you welcome their very honest, constructive feedback, I think is so critical to self-mastery. And you know, I'll be frank, I'll toot the power sessions are a big part of that is self-mastery. And we'll never perfectly achieve self-mastery, but if we continue to strive and surround ourselves with the right people, read the right things and take the right actions, and take time to reflect on our journey, that's a huge step toward, you know, self-mastery. Mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make one the master of a subject. And I love this. It is exactly that. And you can see the Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers. It's a journey, not event. So it's one of the things I always say, embrace the process, right? The process of, you know, continuous, perpetual improvement. How do you get better every single day, one step at a time? And it's a process, and you'll never achieve perfect self-mastery. But the goal is to get better and better and get as close as you can throughout your life.
Good to go?
Yep. So let this video here. So for those, Bruce Hardy's a regional director. He owns multiple Keller Williams offices. He's a very impressive guy and teaches many courses. So he's got a little video for us.
G'day, I'm Bruce Hardy, and I'm committing to self-mastery. You know, this is one of the main 6 perspectives that I think we all need to focus on, particularly if we want to take our business and our lives to the highest level. You know, when I was younger and lived in Australia, a good friend of mine was a black belt in karate. He invited me to participate in karate, so I joined. I was a white belt. And after about 6 weeks or so, we were one day practicing sparring. And it was interesting because we were throwing a punch, relatively simple, straightforward punch. We both knew how to do it. The idea was that you would throw the punch and you would stop 2 inches from the other person's face. So my friend, the black belt, would do it, and he would snap, his gi would snap, and I had wind hitting me in the face, and it was just beautiful the way he threw it. Then it was my turn, and I got down and I went whack, and I watched my friend fall to the floor because I hit him instead of stopping 2 inches in front of his face. We both knew how to do it. He'd mastered it, I had not. I will tell you, I brought the same approach to my real estate business. I realized my focus had to be on listings. And what I did was, by focusing on my listing presentation, practicing over and over and over again, I was able to list over 250 homes a year. There's a wonderful saying out there, and that is, amateurs practice to get it right, professionals practice to never get it wrong. My question to you, are you an amateur or are you a professional? Commit to self-mastery.
Love it. And again, I mean, I took a note. Can we, everyone get muted? That's not, like, maybe you can mute everyone and then they can unmute themselves.
Got it.
Okay. So practice, guys. It's real simple. I mean, that's what I take from that. Practice. That's how you commit to self-mastery. It's repetition. Gary Keller talks about all the time, embrace the boredom and, and put it in perspective, right? None of us like to be bored, but, sometimes that repetition does become boring, but that's part of the sacrifice you make to become the best version of yourself. And I always say, like, if there weren't sacrifices, you wouldn't appreciate the victories as much as you otherwise do, right? If everything were great, it would never feel great anymore. Great's all relative, right? So that willingness to endure the repetition, to practice, and to do certain things that aren't necessarily all that fun, but you recognize why you're doing them, because you're striving to become the best version of yourself, and ultimately the journey should be fun, but just not all components of it are. Blake, anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's just kind of that idea of like the upward spiral, right? It's like, slowly moving forward, just gaining a little bit of momentum every day, right? These little actions built up over time make a huge result. And that's really what self-mastery is to me, right? It's kind of making sure that daily habit every day, right? Those micro cuts add up to something really huge.
Anyone else want to, Justin Jacobson?
Yes, sir.
Activity director. Tell us any takeaways from your perspective.
From self-mastery?
Yes.
I think for me, it's really about, what is your uncompetitive advantage that you can take, that you really can implement into the marketplace. Become so good at that your service becomes undeniable, and become a little dangerous at the rest. Keep in mind, we can outsource a lot of things that aren't our most important activities, but let's be so good at certain things that people look at us and they know that if they don't choose to work with us, they're making a bad decision.
Well said. Love it. Blake, we're at 50.
Oh, okay. You got me. You got me.
Sorry, for those that got on, we had a little bet and I said 50 and we're at 50. How's that? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That's my competitive streak there. Anyone else want to give a little perspective on self-mastery and what it means to them, or any takeaways they took from this so far?
I'd like to chime in.
Yeah. Kelly, how are you?
Hi, great. So, self-mastery, it's a lot to do with, when we spoke about the ripple effect, you do a little today and then you continue to work on something that you know that you need to work on. And it's a lot of finding your strengths and weaknesses and asking for help, and then learning from what you're doing incorrectly and how to do it correctly. And then, every experience that you go through will lead you to the next one. So just being open and humble to fail if you have to, but realize what you did wrong and then move forward from there. But it's really just sitting with yourself and realizing, like, I can do it if I put my mind to it, but like, what do I need to do to get me to where I want to go, and just sticking to it.
Well said, Kelly. And I love what you said, being humble and Maxwell said it earlier, vulnerable. It's the only way you ultimately become the best version of yourself. If you don't allow yourself to be exposed, then you'll never step out of that comfort zone and ultimately, improve upon the areas that you can become better at. Because we all have opportunity to become better in anything and everything. No one's perfect at anything. And that's the awesome opportunity to grow.
And I think also striking a balance between planning and execution, because sometimes you can spend so much time planning and you don't execute at all, or sometimes not that well. So definitely finding a balance.
Great point, Marcus. Love it. All right, Blake, we'll go back so we stay on.
Perfect. See that okay?
Yep.
Perfect.
So now we're on commit to the 80-20 principle, right? There's a pattern of predictable imbalance in life. It's called the 80-20 principle. It's also often called the Pareto principle as well. Again, 20% of your actions give you 80% of your results. 20% of people achieve 80% of something, right? It's a natural distribution sort of equation for almost everything in life. And it's not always literally 80-20, but it's a natural, as it says, a predictable imbalance, right? And oftentimes it's even greater than 80-20, often like 90-10. Cool. So let's read this. There's an excerpt from the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book.
So do you want me to go and read it? I got it here. Okay, cool. All right, so just kind of giving more context to that idea of more results, fewer activities. So it's, in the 1940s, quality control manager, Dr. Joseph M. Wan, documented a life-changing universal principle he called vital few and trivial many. The idea was that a relatively small percentage of your efforts lead to the vast majority of your results. He attributed some of his findings to the statistical work of Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, which is, I think, what you just mentioned, right? Who had observed that 80% of the wealth in his country was owned by 20% of the population. As fate would have it, right, people broadly embraced the principle, became known not as Jurin's law, but Pareto's principle. These days, we simply call it the 80-20 principle.
So who wants to, great stuff, Blake.
Yeah.
Who wants to tell us a little bit about what that means to them and how it's impacted their lives or what they've observed in their life?
Hi.
Hi, Janet.
Hey, so I come from a fundraising background. So we do 20% of all our donations no, 80% of our donations come from 20% of our contacts or whoever is in our interested in the organization.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's,
just think about it. And guys, I'll just cut it right down. Are you part of that 20% in our business, right? Or not? And if not, what are you doing to become part of that 20%?
so to me, that 20% is people that I know, parents that I know, and that's where I get most of my transactions.
Yep.
And that's it.
Blake, anything to add to this?
No, I just think that there's such a truth to it, and kind of identifying what that 20% is, right? Crucial first step.
Yep. Okay, take the next slide. We're gonna.
So it's another video.
Yep. Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Madison Offenhauser, and I am committed to the 80-20 principle. I can say that honestly, I'm committed to it now. I wasn't always. I remember back when I was a team leader, and I was going to also become an OP. Back then, I think I was a really expert list maker. And I thought I was good at prioritizing what was on that list, but I felt so incredibly torn trying to get all the things done in a day that were important to get done. The big rocks were mixed in with the small things. And I just found that that wasn't really working, to the point that I was about to give up my OP role. And I started to interview people through the RS process to replace myself. And in the process of that, oddly enough, just like before we go on vacation, I got my house in order, so to speak. I identified the big rocks that I really needed to get done. And in the process of doing that, I found that I was organizing myself really to the 80-20 principle. So once I realized that, I thought, you know what? I think I can actually continue to do both of these roles. And truly, it was the 80-20 principle. I started focusing on my big rocks first. Instead of having a big list where my big rocks were mixed in, I do them first now. Those are definitely done because obviously, if I'm focusing on my 20%, my big rocks, 80% of the results are going to come from those 20. It has been life-changing for me. And my results are much greater. The other part of it is I found I became so much more time efficient that I actually am capable of handling more roles and accomplishing more things than I ever thought was possible before. And it's all because of the 80-20 principle. I truly am committed to it. Are you committed to the 80-20 principle?
And guys, it's so basic in so many ways. Just simply, are you good at prioritizing, right? And do you know what that looks like? So the big rocks come first, right? We all tend to have to-do lists, but are you acutely aware of the things that are most important right now? And those are the things that definitely come first. I mean, I know how I live my life that way. I mean, I've always got literally 100 things going on at the same time, 100 people to get back to. And I like to believe and it doesn't mean I've mastered it, but I'm always very, I'm focused on what's most important right now. And that's a key to life. And as you grow and become, better and better and more and have more responsibilities and achieve at a higher level, it becomes all the more important. Okay, Blake, go to the next one. When we are focused on the 20% that matters, we get 80% of the results we want. And for us guys, it's the whole principle around the one thing that Gary Keller, and I encourage everyone to read that book. It's like, what's the one thing that you can do such that everything else becomes either easier or unnecessary? And just think about that. What's the one thing you can do such that everything else becomes either easier or unnecessary, right? And for us in this business, it's real simple. It's called lead generation. If you don't, or prospecting, right? They're interchangeable. If you don't have a potential client and you're not working and focusing on that, it doesn't matter how good your listing presentation is, your marketing materials, your logo, your business card, your flyers, how good a negotiator you are, how well you know the contracts. It doesn't matter. Without the client, that's the key to it all. So you'll figure out the rest when you start to get the clients. So don't overthink it, but be completely focused on the prospecting and the lead generation piece. The rest will largely take care of itself. Go ahead, Blake. I'll let you read some of these. I don't know what order we're in here.
Okay, yeah, excerpt from the one thing, right? Another piece of that, the KW literature series. So just a small piece there. So it's, while to-do lists serve as a useful collection of our best intentions, they also tyrannize us with trivial, unimportant stuff that we feel obligated to get done. Because it's on the list, right? Achievers operate differently. They have an eye for the essential. I love that part.
I like that too, yeah.
Left in its raw state as a simple inventory, a to-do list can easily lead you astray. The first things on your list is just the first thing you thought of. To-do lists inherently lack the intent of success. Long hours spent checking off to-do lists and ending the day with a full trash can and a clear desk have nothing to do with success. Instead of a to-do list, you need a success list, a list that is purposefully created around extraordinary results. To-do lists tend to be long, success lists are short. One pulls you in all directions, the other aims you in a specific direction. If your to-do list contains everything, then it's probably taking you everywhere, but where you really want to go.
I love that. I mean, an eye for the essential, and then success list, not a to-do list. Go ahead, read this out, Blake, if you can a little. I know it's a little bit hard to.
Yeah, I don't
know. Are you able
to
make that a little bigger or not?
I can't zoom in on it right now. No.
Okay.
Right, but just the idea that it's very specific, about what the goal is and kind of breaking it down backwards from there, right? It's that they want to run a marathon. And so it's tasks related to that. And then kind of breaking it down to the running regimen and time block training a schedule, right? Just very purposeful and not just a running task of everything. Like if this was a to-do list, all of these tasks would just be, in a running list. This has some sort of cohesion to it, a little bit more direction.
And again, it comes back to like focusing on the essential, right? Mm-hmm. Not all the to-dos. There's 100 million to-dos, but what are the key things that are imperative that are going to allow me to get to where I want to go? And are you crystal clear on that? That's what it's all about. And that takes experience. It takes practice. It takes taking action. And that helps us become smarter and more, as we say, self-aware, self-mastery. All of these principles tie into one another. Anyone want to comment or anything to add to this?
Well, I think that's what's the best part about the Daily 10-4 is it's a success list. That's really what it is.
Jared, do you want to expand upon that for those that don't know what that means?
Yeah, sure. The Daily 10-4 is making 10 contacts a day minimum. These are all minimums, by the way. 10 minimum. Contacts a day minimum.
Yep. Commitments, by the way. Commitments. Minimum. A commitment is a minimum standard that you can commit to. Go ahead. Thanks.
So 10 contacts a day, meaning a two-way conversation, adding 10 contacts into your database every single day. And then also, what's the other one? Writing 10 notes, like thank you notes, checking in kind of notes to like your sphere or whatever, handwritten. And then also previewing 10 properties per week. And just doing that every single day, as frequently as you can, you'll have deals. It's pretty simple.
Jared, do you mind putting that in the chat box for those that, because I think that's great framework.
Totally.
Yep.
100%.
Great contribution. Anyone else?
Well, Josh, I just wanted to bring something up.
Yes.
I'm taking Bold October right now, and it's so awesome. So I suggest anyone to take Bold. But we actually talked about the 80-20, and they talked about how like 20% is lead gen, lead follow-up, appointments, negotiate contracts, and scripting. And then all of that will lead you to the 80% of your results. So if you just do that consistently as much as you can for, however long you can, then, the results will follow.
Love it. Great stuff. Kelly, if you can put those essential activities in the chat box as well, that would be great.
Sure.
All right, Blake, let's move to the next. So I'll read this. Focus with the 4-1-1, which is in essence what Blake was saying, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. It's breaking down things into smaller increments. Set weekly goals that correspond to larger monthly goals. Set monthly goals that correspond to larger annual goals. Make sure your weekly goals are a success list, not a to-do list, as we just said. Plan weekly goals activities no more than 1 week in advance to allow for any change in direction if needed. I think that's a great point, because things change and evolve, and we've got to be willing to pivot within reason. Set annual goals that can realistically be accomplished in a 12-month time period. Avoid revising goals set in prior weeks or months to reflect new goals or missed goals. For example, so Blake, do we have that example or?
Oh no, it's just saying like, for example.
Oh,
yeah, I got you. Yeah. But this is an example of like what the 4-1-1 would look like.
Yeah, Blake, elaborate on this so people that most of you are probably familiar, but some may not.
Definitely. Yeah. It kind of just starts with this idea that you have one main focus, right? You have your one kind of main goal that you're striving for, right? And then we're breaking that down into kind of digestible numbers, right? That you can take month by month. And then we see here at the bottom, right? Those are like our weekly goals. And so for each of the categories, right? I see across the top here, we have job, business, personal finance, and personal, right? We're creating that success list for each of those. So for my job, right, where my goal is to get, 5 listings, what's the success task that I'm doing to accomplish that, right? Running all the way down. And this is something that you're constantly referencing back to. And I love this, right? Because we're looking at it super granular at weekly goals, right? And it's the success list of what I'm doing this week, but it's ultimately, right, all going back up to that annual goal. So it kind of puts it into more context almost. And I see it's almost like the patience thing, where it's, if I have the patience just to focus on, these success list tasks right now, it's ultimately leading me to my annual goals. And so just kind of really breaking it down to what is going to move the needle and what's going to make a difference.
Well said. It really is just taking the broader goals and breaking them down monthly, weekly, and then really the next step, which you don't see here, is drilling that into your time block calendar. So every single day, you know exactly what you need to do. And if you execute that on a disciplined, consistent basis, you will achieve the annual goals. So that's the last piece of this that you don't see, is taking those weekly goals and drilling down into what are the daily activities. And that's it. It just, and then it becomes far less overwhelming, because oftentimes, guys, when we start to think too far ahead, which I think is important to have a vision and have foresight, but sometimes it can feel very overwhelming and daunting, such that we don't act on it because we're so overwhelmed. This basically takes the annual goals, breaks them down such that, again, I do the daily activity and I will achieve the annual goal. I'm consistent with that. And I really encourage everyone, and we can send out the template. It's real simple. And an example of this, Blake, maybe you can send it out and we can put it on the Facebook page or whatever.
Yeah, I'll do a mixture of all three, right? But you can definitely go to kwconnect.com, just type in 411, and this is like a very widely spread thing through the KW ecosystem.
Yeah,
so,
411, it really can often be thing 114. It's annual goal broken down into monthly goal, broken down into 4 weeks. So that's where the 411 comes from.
I love it.
Anybody with questions on this? All right, good stuff. Time blocking, manage your 80-20. People think there is never enough time to be successful, but there is when you time block it. And it got, again, such a simple, basic concept, but how disciplined and consistent are you in executing it? And again, it comes back to like your calendar reflects your life. Is it time blocked? Otherwise, if you don't, it's the same principle that I think Madison mentioned in his video. Think about it when you've got a vacation coming and you've got a buy when date and you've got a drop dead date. It's amazing how much you get accomplished. All time blocking is doing that, in smaller increments throughout your day. So there's urgency and focus in what you're doing. And anyone who's been around me, every single thing is time blocked. I couldn't function without that. I mean, it's 100% how I operate. So I'm extremely focused. And there's accountability and all that around that. Is your day time blocked with the right things? Is it time blocked to begin with? And then is it time blocked with the right activities? I encourage everyone to think about that and start to operate with time block calendar. Go ahead, Blake. I think
I was just saying, like, I love how you bridge that, right? Where it's like we have such clarity now from the 411 of like what those activities are. And so the time block is just kind of keeping you accountable to doing that day in, day out. When I was at Family Reunion, or maybe it was Mega Camp last year, right? There was somebody, he had blown up his business, right? He had brought on a property management leg. He had started doing investments. He started doing all these things. And they said, what was the key? He said it was time blocking. He said, over the course of 10 years, right, he was busier than he had ever been before, making more money than he ever had before, but he also had more free time than ever before because he had kind of taken on this new mentality of keeping everything in its own little box. And that allowed him to just have so much more bandwidth, to take on, the big blocks. And so that's really stuck with me. And so I've always tried to kind of resonate with that for sure.
Love it, Blake. Thank you. 4 keys to successful time blocking. Be consistent enough to set the habit. Be thoughtful and purposeful about the items you list on your calendar. Always time block for the big rocks, right? Your 20% that Kelly mentioned that ensure your success and the success of your business. And I love the last part. If you erase, you must replace. So if you miss something, you got to make it up, guys. And always time block for the unexpected. So leave some flex time in there, right? Expect the unexpected, particularly in a service business, right? So make sure there's some time block for that, such that it's not so tight that if you miss something or something that you can't replace. Cool. All right, let's keep moving so we stay on pace. The goal, guys, just so you know, it's 2:50. We're gonna make sure we're done by 3:30. All right, commit to the 80-20 principle. Protect your time block. The world doesn't know your purpose and priorities and isn't responsible for them. You are. Once again, personal responsibility. Own it. Take destiny into your own hands. Good. Build a bunker, store provisions, sweep for mines, enlist support, right? It's always about like setting yourself up to succeed. So make sure you create an environment where you're not distracted, right? Build the bunker. I mean, I built offices when I joined Keller Williams. I literally, I had my headphones on. I was often in a Starbucks and I had my computer in front of me and I was just calling every agent in the whole area, okay, relentlessly, okay? And I had no distractions. I was, I had snacks there and I was ready to go. So little things like that, set yourself up to succeed. It's really important. All right, moving from E to P. Get purposeful, right? And it's hard to see this, but it's a great, and go to the next slide. I'm sure it'll, well, let's watch this video.
Hi, I'm Brenda Benson, and I've experienced moving from E to P. entrepreneurial to purposeful. And I want to share a personal story with you about how that happened in my own career. As I entered the real estate field, I began to lead generate. And in my lead generation process, I just kind of winged it. That's what I call E. I was not purposeful. I lead generated when it was convenient. I lead generated when I was around familiar faces. I lead generated when I was in a familiar environment. And guess what? My results reflected the haphazardness of that lead generation. When I became purposeful, my results showed that purposefulness. As I looked to pick up the phone and make those calls, and I blocked time for my lead generation, my appointments went up. When my appointments went up, my actual results reflected those appointments. So I know in my own life, just through lead generating and knowing when I was in E versus when I was in P, that my results were different when I became a purposeful lead generator. And I know that can happen for you. So let me share with you 5 quick concepts that really helped me move from E to P. Number 1, focus. Focus on that 20%. Number 2, create strategies and action items that will support you staying in that focused 20%. Number 3, follow the model. The next item would be to install and implement the systems. Implement systems that support the model. And finally, number 5, be accountable. Make sure that you're tracking and you're looking at, as I was, the entrepreneurial piece versus the purposeful piece. So if you are willing to embrace these 5 quick concepts that I just shared with you, your world can change just like mine has. Are you willing to move from entrepreneurial to purposeful?
So, I mean, my takeaways, and then I want to just quickly open it up. Well, actually, here we go. Let's read these. So one is, as she said, focus, write your goals, focus on the 20%, right? There's a lot of overlap in these 6 personal perspectives, as you guys can see. Step 2, find strategic options. Ask, how can this be done? Ask, are there different, better ways to do it, right? Look for models to follow. Attend training that teaches you how to get to where you want to go. Identify mentors and people who have done it. I can't impress upon you guys how big that one is. If you ask any great coach, and they're going to tell you, find someone who is where you aspire to be and go model them, right? That's part of when I say environment matters. Be around other top producing people, many of whom are further than you are, right? Don't be the smartest person in the room. And then model them. And if they're willing to share with you why I'm so passionate about collaboration, then that obviously tremendously accelerates your learning curve. So find models, right? And then 4, install systems, time block, practice scripts, create checklists, make sure the systems you install work consistently and efficiently. And then lastly, bring in accountability. Measure what you do. Keep tracking with the 411 action goal worksheet. Have an accountability partner. The big thing I come back to, I think the biggest thing here is look for models and install systems and then create accountability. It's really, that's how you go to becoming more purposeful. You know, I like to believe I have some pretty strong talent in what I do. I've got a lot of enthusiasm. You know, I can connect well with people. But how do I go from, running one office at a high level to running multiple offices? It's about the systems and the accountability more than anything. And I don't do them all myself, but I find great people that I've earned the right to delegate to. So I think that's critical. And we can all do this in our own version of our lives where we are right now. Blake, any comments on this? And then I want to just quickly open it up to some people that may want to ask questions or provide some commentary.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. And I think it kind of applies, right, to most people, especially in real estate. Those people that have had success, right? You've been able to put together deals. You've been able to get referrals. You've been able to, I've said it before, where it's like you built a business based on your kind of charisma, right? People just like you, they gravitate towards you. But there's always a ceiling to that, I think, right? You can only take that so far. And so when you start to do some of these things like creating checklists, and then putting systems in place, it kind of creates this baseline of where you are. And then that's actually how you end up scaling things and making them grow bigger. It kind of just sets like a standard. And so I always kind of impress upon this, right? It's like your database. That's like one of the biggest ones for me, right? One of like the number one things I hear from top producers, something that they wish that they'd been doing since day one was keeping track of that database, right? Having some sort of system for leads that come in. How are you following up with an open house lead? How do you manage referrals? Having those kind of those checklists in place, right? I think it does make a huge difference in your business and then ultimately helps you grow past just where you are right now. So yeah, I think this is probably like one of the most important steps, at least in my mind.
And it requires stepping out of your comfort zone because it's not going to be natural. It's another way of saying moving from being natural to purposeful. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Naturally, you'll get so far based on your normal talents. How do you raise the bar beyond that and elevate that? That's about being purposeful. That's about engaging systems and accountability to really elevate and create leverage. Any questions or comments, guys, on this? Okay. Make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. And I take away from this curiosity and action. A learning based individual is an individual who has made the decision, right? Again, everything's a decision, to use effective learning as the foundation piece for their action plan to develop their life. And I love this, know for doing sake, right? It's not knowing for knowing, it's knowing for doing sake. I think that's just a powerful statement, right? You're learning such that you can do more effectively, right? It's about applied knowledge, right? Trivial pursuits leads to knowledge. Higher self-actualization, right? Knowing for knowing sake, knowing for doing sake. Let's read the actually, I know what I know and I'll ignore anything else. I know what I know and there is more to know, which is at the very bottom there. Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
So this is a great framework. 4 levels of competency, right? Unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know, right? Conscious incompetence. We now know what we don't know. Conscious competence. Now we know. And unconscious competence. Now we just do it without thinking about it, right? It becomes just habitual. Blake, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I've seen this. It kind of like relates to like your confidence, right? It's, you know, when you don't know what you don't know, like you think you're flying, you think you're doing well, but then, right, you kind of understand how much you don't know, and that might kind of take you down a little bit. And I think that is where most people kind of bail out, right? It's once they see how daunting it is, and then they understand that challenge, that's when they kind of back away. That's when they take the foot off the pedal. But if you kind of proceed through that, right, and then you figure out everything that you need to know, that's when it just becomes habit. And I think that's very true, right? Because there's definitely going to be that hill that you have to get over. But once you do, that's when you start to achieve based on what you've learned. Even kind of going back to that last graphic with the 2 arrows, right? It's like actually applying that.
Love it. Anyone else, any comments on this or questions? Okay. The KW curriculum, learning for earning's sake, right? High achievers reach their goals by making training, education, and self-development the foundation piece of their action plan. Training, education, self-development. I always say your business is a direct reflection of your personal development. And I'll be honest with you guys, straight up, and I'm preaching to the choir here because those that are here are the ones that are most learning based. There are a lot of people in this industry, including, quite frankly, some in our office, that don't feel like they need the mindset piece. And I think they're missing a big piece to achievement. And Blake and I were talking about this earlier. And I think being coachable and always being humble enough to want to, to grow and achieve at a higher level, no matter how successful you are, is so imperative to ultimately becoming the best version of yourself. And that self-development piece is so critical. And the top achievers really fundamentally understand that. And that's why it's such a high priority in this office. All right, let's show this video.
Hi, I'm Georgia Alpizar, Regional Director of the North Florida region. I made Learning Based the foundation for my action plan from the time I started with Keller Williams in 1999. I quickly learned that Keller Williams was a training and coaching company that happened to sell real estate. I was amazed at all of the training available to help agents go from having a sales job to teaching them how to run a real estate business and develop into leaders. As a former team leader in Plano, Texas, I took every opportunity to attend agent training classes and leadership classes. I then brought that information back to our market center and used this to teach our agents. I know that being learning-based and continuing to attend the KWU and regional training events resulted in my leadership opportunities in Keller Williams as a team leader and now in my OP, regional director, and master faculty roles. Being learning-based provides you the opportunity to use the 80-20 model effectively to master what you need to do to stay in your 20%. It is the key for moving from E to P, as you need to learn new models and systems to break through your current ceiling and you continue to reach new ceilings. How do you break through limiting beliefs without learning what it will take to get you out of that fixed mindset and move you into unlimited thinking? Learning-based is being accountable to the learned activities you need to do to grow your business and not go into victim mode. All of this takes you to mastery, the mastery of you to have unlimited opportunities in Keller Williams. Make learning-based the foundation of your action plan for unlimited success. I did.
Great stuff. Cool. So this is just to point out, guys, that there's so much material within Keller Williams, the classes, the books, the Shift book. Obviously, the MRA book is, you know, the bread and butter of our whole business model. Shift is amazing, and particularly in light of the world that we're currently living in. How do you thrive in shifting markets? The Millionaire Real Estate Investor is such a great book, and we're in, you know, we're in this bubble that we live in greater Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, where the amount of wealth here is obviously unbelievable. And a lot of our clients are investors, or certainly could be investors. So are you becoming, you know, a fiduciary and introducing them to all the investment opportunities that exist within real estate for your clients and for yourself? So there's just so many resources. So this is just pointing that out, that I encourage you guys to delve into. Obviously, the one thing which we talked about, what an amazing book that is to really be purposeful and focus on the 20%. KW Maps is basically our coaching company. It's the largest coaching company in the country, I believe. I personally have a Maps coach. It's been a game changer for me. So I really, and there's one-on-one coaching, and then there's group coaching within Maps. So if you ever want to explore that further, feel free to reach out to Blake or I, and I highly, highly encourage people to get into coaching. And obviously we have our own productivity director, Justin. And then KW Connect is, you know, where all the resources are found. So there is so much within this company. And again, you can't do it all, nor do I encourage you to do it all, which comes back to the, you know, the 80-20 principle, but really understanding what's most relevant and what's most important for you right now, based on where you are in the evolution of your journey and your career.
Yeah. And then I'll just plug KW Connect, right? KWConnect.com is the resource for anything on any of this, right? The webinars, the scripts, even like downloading the guide from this class, the 6 personal perspectives. All of that information is available to everybody on kwconnect.com. I can't recommend enough, just playing around in there, getting familiar with it. And I guarantee you'll discover something that you didn't know was there. A lot of good resources.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's one of the things that really distinguishes Keller Williams, is how much we have in terms of resources, and leverage it, use them, apply them.
100%.
All right, remove your limiting beliefs. High achievers remove beliefs from their thinking that hold them back. We all have them. And they tend to grow in time. All right, how's that?
What would you define like a limiting belief? Like what would be an example?
Yeah, like there's no way I can. I mean, I'll use my own, or I'll take an agent. There's no way that I'm gonna close. I mean, just real simple. There's no way I'm gonna take 5 new listings this month. Well, someone else is doing it, so why can't it be you? Are you modeling them? Are you investigating and being learning based to explore what are they doing? What is the model they're using? What are the systems they're using? How have they got to where they are, right? And why can't I do 6 if they're doing 5? Blake, we recruited 30 agents to our office last month. The highest I've ever done in my career. And obviously Blake was a big part of that. So why can't it be better? It's always raising the bar. Why can't you be the first? Just because someone else didn't do it, why can't you be the first? And let's start before that. There's other people doing what you're aspiring to do. Why not go model and emulate them? And if for some reason they haven't, why can't it be you? Someone broke the 4-minute mile, right? There was a point in time before that happened, like people thought like that's impossible. Like physically humans aren't, capable of running a 4-minute mile. Well, as soon as Roger Bannister broke it, it's amazing how many people very shortly thereafter broke it. So it was just purely a limiting belief. It had nothing to do with actual physical limitations. It was all in the mind, coming back to mindset. We are capable of accomplishing things beyond our wildest dreams with the right discipline and consistency and willingness to step out of our comfort zone and become purposeful.
I love that. Let's see, we got a video.
Yep.
Cool.
Hi, my name is Jackie Ellis, and I'm here to talk to you about removing your limiting beliefs. Shortly after joining Keller Williams, I began attending all of the fabulous events available to us, like Mega Camp and Family Reunion. And on the stage were amazing agents openly sharing their strategies for success. And I, very much like you, would be in the audience, writing down notes and taking those strategies back to my own marketplace, which I did implement. Well, a few years after attending Mega Camp, once again in the audience, I realized as I was looking up at these amazing agents that they had fabulous businesses and that I would never have that sort of a high volume, high impact business. So when I got back into town, I took a quiet moment to myself and I took out a piece of paper and wrote a line down the middle. And on the left side, I wrote all of the things that I had going for me on my side that I could use to create one of these fabulous businesses. I had the training, and I could take the training through Keller Williams as many times as I wanted. There were models that if I just followed them, I could be a success like those on stage. And there were systems as well. After completing the left side of my page, I went over to the right side and I began to write what would be holding me back. And as I stared at the right side, I could not think of one thing to put on that piece of paper. I realized it was my limiting beliefs, my very own limiting beliefs that were holding me back. And once I removed them, there would be no holding me back. So fast forward to now, and those very agents that I saw on stage are now my friends. And I'm well on the track to one of those very businesses that I so admired. I want to know, do you have limiting beliefs? Do you recognize them? And what are you going to do to remove them?
Love it. Hey, if someone can do it, why can't it be you? Right? If you're committed. Think of a time in your life when you had a limiting belief you needed to remove. How did you do it? What new successes came your way once you removed the limiting belief? Does anyone want to give a quick example of this and be bold? Come on.
I think for me, like it was, I actually thought that I had to know everything in order to help a certain clientele at a certain level. But, you know, I've learned that a lot of the stuff that you learn is you learn while doing, and it comes with experience, you know, and, you know, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, you know, as you go along. and so that your clients are calm and stuff like that. But you don't always have to know. At least for me, like my limiting belief was like I had to know everything to help, to be the best agent I could be. But a lot of it is just putting yourself out there, trying, and like removing that belief from your mind. That would be mine.
Well said, Stephanie. I think it's a great example. And yeah, just you don't have to be there. There's no such thing as perfect. I think preparation is very important in life, but you don't need to be perfectly prepared. There is no such thing. Just go out and do it, and you'll figure it out as you go.
I can give a little example.
Yeah, Blake, fire away.
So like 2 years ago when I started here, right, they were coming out with a new technology called Kelly, right? It was the app for the phone. I wanted to dig in. I wanted to kind of do more, but there was people that were like, no, like, don't even bother. Like, that's stupid. Why are you doing it? Like, why are you doing more work? Why learn the technology? It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to fizzle out. And so I kind of had it in my head. I was like, nobody cares about this, right? That was my limiting belief, is that there was nowhere to go with the technology because nobody would care. I feel like I removed that, right, just by staying consistent. A little bit of that was by Josh. In the beginning, I was teaching these command classes, and I feel like you kept me very consistent and accountable to keep doing it and kind of pushing forward. And so by kind of pushing through that, I started to realize that people did care, right? People definitely had an interest in this. There was a need for it, and it definitely gave like a huge value proposition. And because I had stayed with it and kind of encompassed all of this, it opened up so many opportunities for me, right? In jobs, but also just kind of knowledge that it's been accumulated. And so kind of getting out of my own way on that and not really caring about how is being perceived and just kind of doing it for me.
I love it. Great example. And I love what you said, because a lot of new initiatives that require other people, take a lot of heavy lifting and consistency before they catch on, right? And it's the same thing, even like lead generation. We make a bunch of calls, a couple days. You're not going to see those effects till well in the future. And so many people just say, hey, it's not working, because they don't see the instant result. And then it takes perseverance and that limiting belief. Take it away. What you do now will not bear fruit till sometime in the future. And that's what deters people from continuing to do it, because they're not seeing that result. So they stop and they think it's not working. So that's a huge limiting belief we all have to a certain degree. And it does take that discipline and consistency, especially when it involves others, to finally, feel the results of the actions that we're taking. So I just think about classes. When I started teaching the power session, when I came here 2.5 years ago, I mean, there were 5 people there initially, and I took that, I believed in it, and I didn't take that limiting belief, and I continued to persevere. And now, we get, all 40 to 50 people there. So I think we can all relate to that. So that discipline, that consistency, and that conviction and passion, people ultimately respect, and it pays off in time. So thanks for sharing, both of you guys. Great examples.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
Cool.
All right, the last one, be accountable. Such a big piece of achievement. So Blake, can you try to maybe read that?
Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah.
There we go.
Push it down a little, even I'll read it. No, but start at the top is my point. Yeah. So life happens, right? Reality shows up. So ignorance, right? You have the victim on one side and the other person that's willing to be held accountable on the other, right?
Yeah.
So guys, now scrolling for me. Down a little. There we go. Someone who's ignorant asks no questions. They don't seek reality, versus someone who seeks reality, has the level of awareness, and asks, what's the situation? Then you have people who are in denial. That's not the way it is. That's not how I see it. That's your perception. They fight reality, versus acknowledging reality, focuses on what they can control and accepts what they can't, right? That's a big part of life. Has that clarity to say, this is the way it is. I got it. I'll see what's going on. And they make the most of the situation. They focus on what they can control and not all the other stuff that's out of their control. And they don't harp on that, right? They focus on, again, what they can control. The victim projects. If everyone would do their job, it's not my fault, it's yours. The market is to blame. The economy is to blame. Why didn't you do something? So, right, they cast blame on others, which basically relinquishes control and gives the control to everyone else, versus someone who owns it. They place their energy on focus, again, on the things that they can control. If it is to be, then it's up to me. I love that. What do I want? I've got to do something. This is my responsibility. Big piece. The victim deflects. Nobody told me, it's not my job. I did my part. I was never given a chance. It doesn't work here. I did what I was supposed to do and it didn't work. I can't think of anything else to do. All about excuses, versus someone who seeks solutions and possibilities. What are my options? How can I get what I want? What can I do for others, right? Solutions focused, not problems focused. Someone who's a victim has resignation. If it was meant to be, it will happen. Let's just wait and see. We've all done what we could. Let's just wait and see. Time will tell. It's out of my hands. The proof will be in the pudding, right? And we all say that, and even I say that at times, right? Versus gets on it. First of all, you guys always hear me say, make it happen. That's like my personal slogan for life. Let's get it started. Time's up. Let's go. This is what I will do. I was never given a chance. Okay, let's do it. Let's get on with it. And ultimately, let's make it happen, right? Victim is willing to accept the status quo. The person who's accountable is like, okay, how do we create the solution? How do we affect positive change? Blake, anything to comment here?
Yeah, I think this is really key. And it kind of relates back to everything, right? Just like everything else. But when you kind of take on this new mindset that life isn't happening to you, right? You're here and you're in control of it. I think that's when you're finally able to be a little bit more self-aware and then take the steps to actually make changes, right? I think it's really easy to get stuck in that victim mentality. But those that are able to kind of elevate on top of that, right? Those are true leaders. One of my favorite books, right? Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. It's in any situation, right? You are the one that has full control, full responsibility. And there's no excuses if things don't get done. If you want to be a leader, you have to take accountability.
Lead by example. I mean, that's, to me, the most powerful version of leadership is leading by example. Go to the next slide and then I'll embrace them, right? So I love this. Doesn't seek reality versus seeks reality, fights reality versus acknowledges reality, blames versus owns it, personal excuses versus solutions, waits and hopes versus gets on with it. Like what we talked about right at the beginning, patience is critical, but patience while at the same time taking action, not waiting and hoping and thinking magic's gonna all of a sudden arrive, right? And burying your head in the sand and sitting on your couch and thinking like, okay, in time, things will become better. What are you doing about it? What are you doing to make it happen? Justin, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thoughts on accountability, because I can't impress upon how important this is for all of us.
My thoughts are you have to be realistic with yourself first and to know that you deserve the success that you can work for. And I think once we all acknowledge that all of these successful agents, whether they're within the office or not, they first had a moment with themselves where they acknowledge that they deserve the success. And once you have that, accountability becomes much easier because you know that if A plus B equals success, it's a lot easier to take that first step. And as we know, taking that first step leads to more steps, leads to feeling less anxiety ridden or nervous about these actions that might be new to us, and they just become part of our daily DNA. And we know that if we are accountable, we can also take a deeper look and course correct if need be, and just really own our own success, not let someone else or some other factor dictate our success. We really own it outright. And that just feels so much better in life, personally and professionally.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't own it, you're just empowering other people or other circumstances, right? Put the power in your own hands, which sometimes is pretty scary, but ultimately that is how you, again, become the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.
Go. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
No, I'm in full agreement. And, if not now, then when? If we aren't going to be accountable now, are we going to want to have this conversation with ourselves in the mirror, next year or 2 years from now, saying, okay, now I want to be? Let's just get it started. We have enough resources internally, and there are enough of your colleagues around you that you can find an accountability partner fairly easily. And, we can all kind of do this together. There's enough business to go around for everybody. That's the good news of the market center we're in right now. And, when you actually get into the accountability part of your business, it actually will end up exciting you. It will become something that you look forward to, because you realize that once you make these small tweaks here and there and you see massive results, you'll want to keep doing it. You'll want to be the instrument of your own success. So it's a lot of it is really just the mindset piece.
Well said. And I always say, coming back, coaching and accountability sort of go hand in hand. First of all, we all have blind spots. And if we're not willing to be vulnerable and realistic enough to solicit good quality feedback, then we're never going to become the best version of ourselves. And the other piece to accountability is, and just even coaching, is oftentimes just hearing something you already know, but it gives you that much more conviction and confidence to act on it, right? Again, it comes back to knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. We can have this great idea and we're not quite sure, so we don't ever do anything with it. Oftentimes, the accountability piece, the coaching piece, gives us the confidence to confirm that what we think is actually likely going to work, and then we do it. So I think that's a big piece as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I coach people that have been in the business 10 plus years. I don't need to help them figure out how to write a contract, but sometimes we have to figure out where their mindset is relative to their accountability. And so it doesn't matter where you are. We all need it, myself included. All of us need it.
If I could chime in on that too, that's been like my biggest takeaway. I think I had kind of this limiting belief that only new people needed coaches, right? Only, people coming in this business fresh needed coaches. And one of the most surprising things to me was to hear that like Josh has a coach, right? One of the biggest agents in the office, Jeff Yarbrough, he has a coach. It's like, this isn't something that's limited just to new people, right? This is something that we could all take a lot from. And so, yeah, that was definitely a big aha for me.
I mean, just think about sports, guys. I mean, it's the obvious. Like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, when they all had major coaches, multiple coaches. Not only their obvious coaches, their head coaches. They had personal development and mindset coaches. Half these guys. Are you kidding me? It's critical. The best of the best need coaching and accountability, and that's why they're the best of the best. Okay.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Cool. We got another video.
Yep.
Last one.
Hi, I'm Gina Ront, and I'm here to talk to you about accountability and what accountability means to me. Accountability in all reality is that it's the foundation of your day. And when I wake up in the morning, for me to go work out, if I don't have some kind of accountability, it doesn't happen. And so what do? I have a trainer. I pay him, therefore it forces me to show up and work out early in the morning. We have so much natural ability, and it's get us so far in life. But the reality is, without some structure and some accountability, that allows us to move past our natural tendencies. So for an example on accountability inside of our real estate team is our 411s, which is our accountability tool that Keller Williams has taught us to use with our team members. And so we find out what are their yearly goals, how can we break that into a monthly goal, and then how can we do that into 4 weeks, each week, moving them towards that. And it's not just about business goals and financial goals, but it's personal goals. I find out what's important to them, they find out what's important to me, and together we grow the business. You know, accountability isn't always roses. Sometimes life steps in, and you think about Keller.
Hey, man.
You're the famous Justin.
I mean, only kind.
When you're heading off the road of accountability and blaming yourself, blaming others, because you're not going to get anywhere. And so that's where accountability steps in. And you can make the decision to step out of that, move forward, get back into the language that's going to move you forward, and use the tools that these perspectives give you. You know, having that and having a plan and focusing back on that is where accountability can totally make a difference, change your life, and quite frankly, change your family's life, your destiny, your legacy.
Love it. So we're going to wrap this up in 2 minutes here. So think of an issue or problem you are struggling with right now. You have 2 minutes to complain about your problem with others in the classroom. After 2 minutes, return to your seats, utilize be accountable steps, work through and write down. So we're not going to go through this, Blake, but go on to the next thing. So this is an interesting graphic, like create accountability in all aspects of your life, right? Financial, spiritual, physical, business. And you can see, you know, Mo Anderson, right, has accountability, you know, basically partners in each of her areas of her life, right? So I really encourage everyone to think about that, how it pertains to your life. Start in one phase, right, if you don't have any right now, and eventually aspire to create accountability in all these different areas. Okay, go to the next one, Blake. Here, we'll keep going. So this is a great thing, accountability session model for consulting. What was your goal? How did you do? And this is a great, I cannot impress upon this graphic right here. What was your goal? How did you do? How did you feel about that? Based on how you did, what is your goal and what do you need to do now? Is there anything that might keep you from doing that? If you needed training or support to do this, what might it be? Like, this is a great framework for accountability. I mean, it's so simple and it's so powerful. Blake, if you can actually share this, I'm actually taking a screen because I used to use this quite a bit and I sort of got away from it, honestly. But maybe you can send this out and you maybe send out the whole presentation to everyone.
Definitely.
This slide is a powerful one.
Definitely. Yeah, let's get it on Facebook. I'll get a few graphics, the templates, and then the slides.
Cool.
Right on.
Or we'll move on. We're almost there. So the Career Growth Initiative is a great sort of accountability tool and process to achieving that we use both from a leadership standpoint and an agent standpoint, right? So appointments to listings, and then when you're sitting at a listing appointment, what's your wall of value such that you get the listing agreement, you close a deal, and ultimately you make money, and you're mindful of your GCI turning into profit based on how much you have a budget model and how much you're looking at your expenses. That's a whole nother conversation, but this is a great framework. Appointments, listings, closings, profit. It's a great flow chart for accountability and ultimately driving your business. Anything to add to that, Blake?
No, just, each of these boxes individually, these are your activities. And so this just kind of puts context to it. Kind of going back to like the economic model, right? Just kind of really seeing, if you want your profit, this is how you work backwards and get it, right? You have to be going on the appointments. You have to be taking the listings, and eventually it all just kind of comes to fruition.
So this is a great thing to leave you guys with. For each perspective, write down the one thing you'd like to implement. Again, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to act on this class? What are going to be next steps? And it's just one step at a time. Action begets action. So don't overthink it. Just take one step. The first step is the hardest. Then each subsequent step becomes easier and easier. Circle just one, share your one thing, and brainstorm a game plan to achieve it. So I really, really encourage everyone to think about what are they going to do in each of these areas as the next step to become better. Is that the last slide, Blake?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just that one. That's all.
Any and Blake will share this. Any last sort of comments, questions? I know we weren't quite sure how long this was going to take, and we made it work in an hour and a half. So, anyone want to share any thoughts or feedback? You're all in awe, huh? I'm looking at all these faces.
I just like to say thank you, Josh, and thank you, Blake, for such this extraordinary. I really love it, and I would like to study it again. And I've heard Blake said he put it in a Facebook that I took some of the pages. I know I take the picture, but I took the picture, but I would rather to study it again and again. Thank you guys very much.
You got it, Chante. Thank you. Any other comments? There doesn't need to be.
No, yeah, guys, it's amazing.
I want to say how crazy it is. How it's like it really is about mindset. We're gonna talk about it all over the place. Like every industry talks about it, like how important it is. And I love talking about it. You got to be positive. You give what you get out. So focus on the mindset, put in the work, and results will 100% kick in.
And Isaiah, you're definitely leading by example on that. So I love it.
I actually want to ask you guys something, because I know some people are in the office doing it part-time. I know some people have that struggle where like they don't have much time to put in the real estate, or they don't know how to do the full-on shift. Like, what ideas or tips do you guys have for us in that situation?
For people that are doing it part-time?
Yeah, part-time, and we're trying to like go leave our part-time job to be the full-time realtor.
Well, I mean, I'll be quick, because I think one is just getting realistic and preparing yourself so you have enough sort of reserves to, endure not having to close deals for a certain period of time. That's probably a longer conversation. But I think most importantly, I would say, make success the only option. Take that leap of faith. It can be scary, step out of the comfort zone. And when you've got to make it work, you will make it work.
I love that. And something I want to share is that 2 years ago, I quit my job, went full on real estate. I maxed out my credit cards, fell bad into debt, but I took my part-time job back, started getting some momentum in real estate. So now I'm going to full on real estate. Now, whoever's deciding to do full on real estate with this team here, I can guarantee you that if you have all of this behind your back, you're going to get results immediately.
Love it. And it's about personal responsibility, because we all have right in this office. I mean, and with Keller Williams, you have more than enough resources to absolutely kill it. And then it lies in your hands, period. What are you going to do about it? What actions are you going to take? How purposeful are you going to be? All the things we just talked about. There are no excuses. So it's all destiny lies in your hands. You have all the resources and the support to achieve anything you're committed to. All right. Well, thank you guys. Blake will post this. I really appreciate all of you guys being here. And as I always say, make it happen. It's great to see a lot of great faces here. And none of us is as smart as all of us. So really engage and do it. Awesome. Have a great day. Thank you, Blake.
I appreciate you guys.
Yep.